Hello, welcome to Today in History. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama. So let's get cracking, let's roll back the blind. We'll go back to the year 1066. So for those of you who are familiar, who are au fait with British history, I'm sure you can guess what happened on this day. I'll not keep you long. Don't need to hold your breath. It's the Norman Conquest. So this was the day that the Norman Conquest began. So basically, William I, or William Duke of Normandy, was held back. He was delayed by bad weather. He would have started this conquest a lot earlier. But on this day, he embarked with his army and set sail for the southeastern coast of England in what would be known in history as the Norman Conquest, primarily effected by his decisive victory at the Battle of Hastings, which happened on the 14th of October 1066, and resulting ultimately in profound political, administrative, and social changes in the British Isles. Nearly 7 centuries later, we move to the United States, and Samuel Adams, American politician, was born. He was also a statesman, political philosopher, and one of the founding fathers of the United States. He was a politician in colonial Massachusetts, a leader of the movement that became the American Revolution, and one of the architects of the principles of American republicanism that shaped the political culture of the United States. He was a second cousin to his fellow founding father, President John Adams. Let's move on to the year 1840. This is quite an interesting one, something that one doesn't expect every day. But his name is Thomas Nast. He was a German-born American caricaturist and editorial cartoonist, often considered to be the father of the American cartoon. He was a critic of Democratic Representative boss Tweed and Tammany Hall Democratic Party political machine. Among his notable works were the creation of the modern version of this dude here, Santa Claus, based on the traditional German figures of Sankt Nikolaus and Weihnachtsmann, and the political symbol of the elephant for the Republican Party, GOP. Contrary to popular belief, Nast did not create Uncle Sam, the male personification of the United States federal government, Colombia, the female personification of American values, or the democratic donkey, though he popularized these symbols by his artwork. Nast was associated with the magazine Harper's Weekly from 1859 to 1860, and from 1862 until 1886. He died on the 7th of December 1902 at the age of 62 in Guayaquil, Ecuador. 1907. On this day, Bhagat Singh, pictured here, was an Indian socialist revolutionary whose 2 acts of democratic violence against the British in India and execution at the age of 23 in 1931 made him a folk hero of the Indian independence movement. So you would have deduced that he was born on this day in 1907. So that's Bhagat Singh, who was born on this day, 1907. He led democratic acts or dramatic acts of violence against the British in India. Obviously, he didn't want people from outside ruling his people, but he was eventually caught and executed at the age of 23. Obviously, that made him a hero, understandably. Okay, let's move on to 1912. What happened on this day in 1912? This man called W.C. Handy publishes Memphis Blues. You can see a poster there, the St. Louis Blues, and then a picture of W.C. Handy. Okay, so composer of the Memphis Blues. You can see that towards the bottom on the left-hand side. So I'm going to read a bit about this musician, composer. He was born William Christopher Handy on the 16th of November 1873. He was a composer and musician who referred to himself as the father of the blues. Handy was one of the most influential songwriters in the United States. One of many musicians who played the distinctively American blues music, Handy did not create the blues genre, but was the first to publish music in the blues form, thereby taking the blues from a regional music style, Delta blues, with a limited audience to a new level of popularity. Handy was an educated musician who used elements of folk music in his compositions. He was scrupulous in documenting the sources of his works, which frequently combined stylistic influences from various performers. So that is Mr. William Christopher Handy, who published Memphis Blues on this day in 1912. We move on to the year 1972, so exactly 60 years later. Guess who was born? Gwyneth Paltrow. Full name, Gwyneth Kate Paltrow. She is an American actress, businesswoman, and author. She has received numerous accolades for her work, including an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and a Primetime Emmy Award. Paltrow gained very early notice for her work in films such as Seven in 1995, Emma 1996, Sliding Doors 1998, and A Perfect Murder in the same year, 1998. So happy birthday, Gwyneth Paltrow. Another person who was born on this day is this rapper. Exactly 10 years later, Lil Wayne was born. He is known fully, his full name is Dwayne Michael Carter, better known by his stage name Lil Wayne. He is an American rapper, singer, songwriter, record executive, entrepreneur, and actor. He is regarded by many contemporaries as one of the most influential hip-hop artists of his generation, and often cited as one of the greatest rappers of all time. His career began in 1995 at the age of 12 when he was signed by rapper Birdman, joining Cash Money Records as the youngest member of the label. So happy birthday, Lil Wayne. Happy birthday. Mohammed Omar. This Taliban, led by Mohammed Omar, seized the capital of Kabul, declaring all of Afghanistan an Islamic State. Mullah Mohammed Omar, full name, widely known as Mullah Omar, was an Afghan Mujahideen commander who led the Taliban and founded the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan in 1996. He was born into a poor family with no political connections. Omar graduated from Darul Uloom Haqqaniya in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan. During the 1980s, he joined the Afghan Mujahideen in their war against the Soviet Union and the Communist Democratic Republic of Afghanistan. He founded the Taliban movement in 1994 and by 1995 had captured much of southern and western Afghanistan. By September 1996, the Taliban took the capital, Kabul. During his tenure as the Emir of Afghanistan, Omar seldom left the city of Kandahar and lived a recluse life. He ordered the destruction of the Buddhas of Bamiyan in 2001. I remember that. I remember seeing that on CNN and how these Buddhas' massive structures were being shot down, and I think there were some grenades were thrown at them and they were being pulled down and so on. I remember people complaining from around the world that these were historic figures, they were works of art, and they were very upset that he was bringing them down. But obviously he was doing that because he didn't believe that he should have statues in a country in an Islamic state. So he had his own conviction and then did what he had to do, I guess. Anyway, so that's Mohammed Omar, who seized the capital of Kabul on this day in 1996. We move on to the year 2008. Chinese astronaut Zhai Gang performed China's first spacewalk on this day. He was born October 10, 1966, and is a major general in the People's Liberation Army Air Force and a CNSA astronaut. During the Shenzhou 7 mission in 2008, like I said earlier, he became the first Chinese citizen to carry out a spacewalk. 2019, last but not least, this is an incredible individual, which I'm going to spend some time on. Her name is Greta Thunberg. A week of international climate change protests led by youths, notably Swedish activist Greta Thunberg, ended with millions having participated in the demonstrations. Her full name is Greta Tintin Eleonora Ehrman Thunberg. She has gained international recognition for promoting the view that humanity is facing an existential crisis arising from climate change. Thunberg is known for her youth and her straightforward speaking manner, both in public and to political leaders and assemblies, in which she criticizes world leaders for their failure to take sufficient action to address the climate crisis. Thunberg's activism started after convincing her parents to adopt several lifestyle choices to reduce their own carbon footprint. Can you imagine that? This is someone who was barely a teenager. She had already started speaking to her parents about their carbon footprint. In August 2018, at the age of 15, she started spending her school days outside the Swedish parliament to call for stronger action on climate change by holding up a sign reading "School Strike for Climate." So obviously that was in Swedish, School Strike for Klimatek. Soon after, other students engaged in similar protests in their own communities. Together, they organized a school climate strike movement under the name Fridays for Future. After Thunberg addressed the 2018 United Nations Climate Change Conference, student strikes took place every week somewhere in the world. In 2019, there were multiple coordinated multi-city protests involving over 1 million students each. To avoid flying, that's interesting, to reduce, she's practicing what she is preaching. She sailed to North America, where she attended the 2019 UN Climate Action Summit. Her speech there, in which she exclaimed, "How dare you?" was widely taken up by the press and incorporated into music. So, this young activist, her parents must be very proud of her. We talk about in a certain country, a certain leader of this certain country talks about the youths as being lazy. I would beg to differ. Most youths are not lazy. Most youths are hardworking. In other parts of the world, you have youths who are standing up and speaking up. But this young lady, her parents should be proud of her. Those of us who inhabit this planet as well, who have not spoken as loudly as she has, who have not been as passionate as she has about our planet, our only home, at least in the foreseeable future. We need to give her a pat on the back. We need to be proud that there's someone this young who has stood up to speak her mind, to speak what's right. She's focused, she's going to go places. But if her efforts are not listened, if her efforts are not if her words are not listened to, her efforts are not helped, her efforts are not rewarded by us taking steps to reduce our carbon footprint, then our efforts would have been in vain. So I'm with her 100%. You know, before ending this video, I'll talk about what I heard a few months ago when, a few weeks after the lockdown started, I was in London. I was listening to a radio station, I think it was, and I heard this comment saying that the pollution levels in London had dropped to the levels it was in the 1950s. Because there were no more cars, there were not as many cars on the streets of London, so the pollution levels had dramatically dropped. So it's interesting how we have survived. Okay, a lot of economies have nosedived, but at the end of the day, the air is cleaner. I bet you next year there will be a lot fewer respiratory diseases and other diseases that pollution causes, or exacerbates. So thumbs up, hats off to Greta Thunberg. Happy birthday as well. If you're listening to this, you're hearing this from where you are in the world, well done. Happy birthday. So on that note, it's not a happy birthday. Do forgive me. She led protests on this day, a week of international climate change protests. So it's not a birthday, but she's still a teenager. So anyway, whenever you celebrate your birthday, Greta, happy birthday. Keep on keeping on. On that note, guys, I shall end today in history. My name, again, is Sotonye Fiesimama. I hope you're going to do your own bit to save our planet, Let's do our own bit. Let's not do things carelessly. Let's dispose of our waste accordingly. For those of us who have different bins to put plastics and paper and so on and so forth, compartmentalize your waste as well, so that you give the people who are responsible for disposing of these waste less work to do. Let's be a bit more sensible. Let's be a bit more sensitive as well. Okay, guys, thank you for dropping by today. I hope that you like this video, so give me a thumbs up and also share this video to your family and friends. Do not forget to subscribe. You can do that by clicking the notification bell so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Thanks again, guys. I shall see you tomorrow for another edition of Today in History. Take care, stay safe. Bye-bye.